Well, Kari Lake, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Kari, I want to start by addressing the second assassination attempt against President Donald Trump. You are a journalist. Do you think that the rhetoric that has been used by the media and the Democratic Party for so long is to blame for what's happening to him?
I certainly think it's partially to blame for sure. I mean, you think about the brainwashing operation that this country has been under at the hands of the media. President Trump called it the fake news a long time ago. He kind of pulled the cover back and exposed so much of the lies that the media has told about President Trump. When you think about what they've said, calling him an existential threat, a fascist, I mean, they've thrown names out that are just absolutely a threat to democracy. Pretty soon that's getting into the heads of the American people, and it's going to trigger people to do really, really terrible things, as we've seen already.
Yes.
We've got to keep President Trump safe. He deserves better protection than he's getting. Thankfully, the Secret Service were able to keep him safe in the second attempt, but they obviously are coming after him. And it shows you that, you know, they are so afraid of what he can do in Washington, D.C. in rooting out the corruption and getting our country back on track. There's a lot of people who are part of that corrupt system in Washington, D.C. who would do anything to make him go away. And the good news is the people are with President Trump, and we're praying for him, and he's covered in prayer right now, which I think is what's also helping to keep him safe.
Amen. So speaking about the election, we are less than 2 months away from Election Day. Economy is one of the main issues for voters. What will you do if elected to make sure that the people of your state have a better economy? And I have to tell you, we Hispanics care a lot about economy because we not only provide for our children, but often we also take care of our parents.
Yep.
So this is a big issue for us.
Absolutely. We look at our polling that comes out, and I don't really like to, I like to just talk to the people. That's my polling.
Yes.
But if you do look at the professional polling that comes out, the #1 issue for all Arizonans is the economy. But then when you break it out into different groups, young people, 18 to 39, even more so they care about the economy because they're just starting to get out into the real world, and they're saying, we can't afford rent. Rent has doubled in some locations in Arizona. Then you break it out and look at the Latino voter in Arizona, and it is like 3 times more important to Latino voters than general voters in Arizona. And I believe it is because of what you just said. Taking care of a family, oftentimes already working 1, maybe even 2 jobs, and struggling to make ends meet, and then saying, how many more hours in the day can I possibly work? Yeah. There aren't enough hours in the day to work as much as I need to put food on the table for my family. What we can do is we can elect President Trump, give him a Republican Senate, and we can immediately start putting back in that Trump economy. It's going to start with bringing down the cost of energy. #1, we've got to bring down the cost of energy. Everything we purchase, whether it be a house, whether it be clothing, has to be trucked across this country. We need to bring down the cost of energy for heating and cooling.
What do you make of Kamala's economic plan?
I think it's disastrous. And, you know, many people who are watching this show either came from or have relatives in parts of the world that are socialist and communist. And you can tell that she's taken a page right out of the communist playbook by doing things like price controls. That would spiral us into a situation like we've never seen before. It will do the opposite. It will make businesses close down shop, and it will be destructive to our economy. You know, I look at housing prices and I think of my young kids, 19 and 21. How are they ever going to afford a house? Yeah. Right now, the price of a house in Arizona has gone up 35%. And because the mortgage rate went up from 2.77% to almost 7% under Biden and Harris, we're looking at double the payment of what you would normally have. A house payment used to be on average $1,300 in Arizona. It's now $2,700. Yeah. Young people can't afford that. Families are struggling. We have to get this back on track. And taking a page out of the communist playbook for how to run an economy is a recipe for disaster. It'll have us looking a lot more like Venezuela than looking like the America that we all love, and the opportunities that we all appreciate here will be gone if we elect Kamala Harris. I should mention that my opponent, Ruben Gallego, is for all of this. He's been in Congress for 10 years. He's voted with Biden and Harris 100% of the time. He's even further to the left of the Squad and AOC and Elizabeth Warren. He is the most far left member of Congress. Now he's running for Senate, and he's trying to act like he's a moderate. He's trying to lie to the people of Arizona and say he's moderate, he cares about securing the border. He doesn't. He's voted for this disastrous Biden agenda and Harris agenda 100% of the time. And so we need to make sure we don't allow him in. And you look back at his background as well, it's very disturbing. Before he got into politics, he was a director at a bank that was found to have bilked Latino immigrants out of their life savings. And he is trying to act like he's of a high moral character. You don't steal people's money when you're of high moral character.
According to the polls, the race in Arizona for the Senate is pretty close, pretty tight.
Yeah.
So, and you are running, as you said, against a Hispanic, Ruben Gallego. Why is Kari Lake better even for Hispanics to be at the Senate representing the people of Arizona?
Well, let's just start with the economy. I want to bring back that strong Trump economy where there's very low unemployment, lots of job opportunity for everyone. And when we improve the economy for everyone, Latinos do better, Hispanics do better, Black Arizonans do better, Asian Arizonans do better. So we want to bring back that Trump economy. Gallego wants the Biden economy. He voted for legislation which caused us to see a 40-year high in inflation. If he's going to be voting that way, we know that he's going to be disastrous for the economy. When it comes to our families, I care deeply about making sure our kids get a great education. I want our educational dollars to follow our kids, to follow the student. And that means mom and dad get to choose the best school for our kiddos. If it's a Catholic school, we can take that tax money and spend it at that Catholic school. If it's a charter school, if it's a technical school, we get to decide. Ruben's not for that. When it comes to family, I think it says a lot about his character that he walked out on his wife when she was pregnant with their firstborn. Just days before she gave birth to the firstborn, he served her days before Christmas with divorce papers and left her alone to have that baby. And he walked out and ran off with the D.C. lobbyist. That says a lot about who Ruben Gallego is. I know my family is Latino. My husband and children are Latino. I know that that's not looked kindly upon in a Latino culture because we put family at the top, God and family. And we respect our wives, we respect our husbands, we respect our children and our parents. And that shows that he doesn't have that kind of respect for his own wife and his own baby to do that.
Well, Kari, switching a little bit topics, abortion is on the ballot in Arizona this coming election. What's your position on that topic?
Well, I believe that it should be up to the states to decide, and we're going to end up with 50 different abortion laws out there across the country. And we're in the process right now of figuring out what it's going to be. In Arizona, we have abortion is allowed up until 4 months of pregnancy, and on the ballot would allow it right up until the baby's birth. The people of Arizona will decide that. Ruben Gallego wants to take that decision away from the people of Arizona. He wants to get rid of the filibuster in the U.S. Senate and pass abortion right up until 9 months for the whole country and take it away from the voters in each state. I believe the voters in each state should decide. What I want to do is when I get to Washington, D.C., I want to make sure we're passing legislation that is pro-family, because I don't want any woman to feel like she has to have an abortion because she can't afford her baby. She has to have an abortion because economically she doesn't think she can do it, or maybe she doesn't think she'd be a good mom and doesn't know about adoptive services. I want to make sure we are passing laws that actually support family. In Hungary, they cut the number of abortions in half, and they never changed a single law. What they did is they passed pro-family legislation. If you have a baby, if you get married, your tax rate comes down a percentage point. If you have a baby, it comes down again. Any woman who has 4 babies never pays taxes again. they realized they were seeing a low in their population. Their population was
That's right.
dropping, and they had to build it back up. And they did that by giving moms and dads tax relief
That's
to
right.
encourage them to have children.
Well, that's very important. I mean, a lot of polls on economics have shown that that's one of the fears that families have right now and influence the decision of how many children to have, you know, and I think it's...
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I'm from a family of 9. I am the youngest in a family of 9, a big, big Catholic family. My mom
Yes.
loved each and every one of us, and what a joy. But can you
Absolutely.
imagine a woman going into an abortion clinic because she says, I can't afford the baby,
Yeah, it's terrible.
having an abortion, then walking out and watching Ruben Gallego cast another vote to send another $60 billion to Ukraine. He's voted to send $260 billion to Ukraine, and families in Arizona are struggling right now. I don't want any woman to think that if she can't afford a baby, that she should have an abortion. We want to help.
Absolutely. Well, another of the main issues right now for borders is the crisis at the border. Arizona is a border state. How can that border crisis be addressed without being pointed out as racist or anti-immigrant?
Well, I think it's interesting. Whenever we've got a huge coalition, Latinos for Lake, and whenever we go to one of our coalition meetings or events, the Latino population is saying, hello, can we do something about this wide open border? My family's not safe. Crime has spiked up. Venezuela has emptied out their prisons and insane asylums and sent these people over. That's why we're seeing what's happening in Colorado, where the gang members are taking over entire apartment complexes, and the police can't do anything about it. They're outmanned. And so we've got to make sure that we are fully funding our police. My opponent wants to defund the police. I want to fully fund them. We want to make sure we have legal immigration, but we stop people from pouring across our border unvetted, unchecked. That's totally inappropriate. It's putting us and our families at risk. It's also hurting us economically. And here's how. When you have 18 million people who've poured in illegally since Joe Biden opened up the border and Ruben Gallego, gave them the thumbs up, we have had to compete with housing with 18 million people. That's why our housing prices are shooting up. And besides that, these people will work for next to nothing. They'll work for a depressed salary or wage, and that keeps our wages down, because we have to compete now with people who are willing to work for next to nothing, and that means employers are going to expect us to work for next to nothing. So it's imperative for our economy and our safety that we shut that border, and I don't think there's a racist thing about it. I want every family to be safe. We have a process where you can come here legally, but we do not reward people who pour across our border, especially when it comes to bringing in people who are criminal elements from other countries who want to do us harm, and terrorists as well. We got to stop that.
Kerry, Arizona is a swing state. What do you think it will take for President Trump to win Arizona?
I believe he's going to win Arizona. I'm on the ground with the people every day in Arizona. They love him. They miss him. They miss his common sense policies. He's going to get out there, I'm sure, a few more times between now and Election Day. But I think he's going to do really well. The polling shows he's up. My internal polling shows that I'm up over Ruben. It's a little bit more tight. He has spent $62 million running ads lying about his record and attacking me, and he's got about 40 million more that they're ready to spend between now and Election Day. That's about $100 million in ads. Think about what we could have done with that. But the people of Arizona know that America First policies are the ones that create a strong economy, safe streets, good education for our kids, and world peace. We're on the verge of World War III, and I can only think of one person who can stop that, and it's Donald J. Trump. So I'm encouraging everybody to get out there and vote. We have to get out and vote. President Trump, in Arizona, you got to vote Kerry Lake for U.S. Senate. And if you're in states that also have Senate seats, vote for the Republican. President Trump is going to need the majority in the Senate to get this agenda that he has to get us back on track, to get it moving. If we don't have the majority in the Senate, he will be stopped with roadblocks every step of the way, and we don't have time for that.
Finally, there's been several issues reported about elections. What should we do to ensure that the election process is transparent, and why do Democrats don't want the voter ID requirement?
Well, I think they know that if there's voter ID, that only people who are able to cast a legal vote will vote, and they won't be able to win. They only can win if there's all kinds of loopholes in the system. And I really wish that our election officials around this country, many of them do, but some of them don't, took election integrity and transparency seriously. What we really need them to do right now is to clean up the voter rolls. We have a lot of lines on those voter rolls that are people who don't exist anymore, or people who've moved, or people who died or left the state, and they're still on those voter rolls, leaving the ability for a ballot to get attached to an invalid voter. And that's where we have a lot of our problems. So the day will come when we clean up our elections. And I believe it'll come after this election, and we will end up having really, really fair, honest elections. That's all we want. Every legal voter to be able to cast a vote. Right now, we're not there yet. That means we all have to get out and vote. As President Trump says, make it too big to rig. And that's what we're going to do in Arizona.
Kari Lake, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.